Gentiluomini miei, qui è Nico, sex e relationship coach per Forma Hominis, luogo di eccellenza dedicato all'uomo, dove si parla di seduzione, dinamiche sociali nei rapporti uomo-donna e sviluppo personale, e dove aiuto professionisti ed imprenditori a rientrare in contatto con la loro essenza maschile, per trovare, attrarre e tenersi la compagna dei loro sogni. In questo video vedrete alcuni spezzoni di una lunga video intervista che ho fatto alla mia amica e collega Michela. Michela è una life coach e relationship coach per donne, che ho già intervistato l'anno scorso. Il link a questo video dovrebbe comparire qua sopra proprio in questo istante. Nel corso di quest'ultima lunga video intervista abbiamo parlato di comunicazione all'interno di un rapporto di coppia. L'intervista è stata svolta all'interno di Forma Hominis Black, un programma per clienti che hanno completato un ciclo di coaching nel mondo della seduzione e delle relazioni con me e che quindi operano ad un livello avanzato. Il programma dura quasi un anno e per arricchirlo ho appunto deciso di invitare ogni mese un ospite diverso con cui i miei clienti hanno l'opportunità di relazionarsi e connettersi. Buona visione! How do you feel around a man who is grounded, a man who is on his path?
Well, when a man is on his path, it is something very, very beautiful. And a woman loves that very much, that to see that a man is looking into the future a little bit, has a little bit an idea what he wants to live, to create in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. And especially in dating, you know, I advise women to ask that totally bluntly, you know, but interesting enough, when we worked in the coaching, men start to ask that the women, you know, so it's not even necessary. They feel that we have some clarity, but I say them, ask them, what is their vision for the future, you know? And when a man says, actually, just continue as I am now, you know, like, and this is a little bit sometimes tricky for women, and also like, yeah, it's attractive to have clarity, and I'm not talking that everybody has to have a business, or I'm not talking about that. Just having, you know what, I would love to have a bigger apartment, maybe a bigger car, something like that. It must not be like totally exaggerated, but this is very attractive. So I think this clarity, this basic clarity is very attractive. And also like women are graceful when men are owning their parts that are insecure. I think this is super okay. Women are not bitches when you say, you know what, and I had this situation last week in the work. I was feeling insecure, you know, like when my boss asked me that and I did not know how to answer, I was sweating like hell. And when you own that, you know, this is not something that a woman interprets as weakness.
Michela, how do you feel about men learning seduction, men learning how to pick up girls?
I think it's funny.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is playful. And I think I like it. It's good when a man has some seduction skills. The question is if the woman is able to play with that already. But I think this is beautiful, that playfulness in the seduction, the courting time.
We are going a little bit off topic, but I think it's an interesting question for the guys. I think seduction teaches you a lot about yourself, because learning how to seduce a woman is not easy at all. When you first start doing this, you encounter a lot of problems during the process, and you have to face your own insecurities of not feeling good enough. You have to face your own neediness for approval, acceptance. You have to face your fear of rejection, your fear of attachment. So I think that's great, but I feel like most women are against it. So I was interested about your opinion.
Against a seduction?
Against pickup, you know, which is kind of manipulating women into having sex for some
Okay.
people.
Pick up. Yeah, I don't know. I think women can smell most of the times very much when something is wrong.
Exactly.
But also in your development as a woman, I talk about myself. I totally was also in many times of my life very naive, and I totally trapped in and bought the seduction, the show. But it's part also of the game, to find your boundaries as a woman. For me, I think in the end, there's so much fear and anxiety also about, oh, we should be so sexy, I have to seduce her so hard. I have to show her who I am. That's not always so true. I think really women have faced absolutely the same insecurities, even the people that you would never how do you say, guess that, I think it's in all of us. It doesn't matter how you look, don't think it's when someone is good looking that he doesn't face the same problems, and I think sometimes to play a little bit safe, just to be the unspectacular, little bit ordinary man who just wants to talk to you, it can be also very attractive, a little bit baseline, but why not, this is also something to trust. That's my opinion.
Yeah, also because nowadays people meet through dating apps and that's it. I mean, we don't have these natural encounters anymore, people meeting up on the streets, or maybe we have them, but in less amount.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit sad.
It is a bit sad, yes, and it needs a lot of self-control and self-responsibility, especially in the dating. I advise women not to have sex too early. It's really to taking time for dating, for getting to know each other, because I think in that aspect men have a slight advantage. They are getting easier over it. As a woman, when we sleep with someone, we open an energetic field, and there is an imprint in our body that we feel and we have to deal with, like bonding is immediately activated, so it's not so true that it's such an easy topic for women. We really should take some time, and a man who is not pushing that, perfect, not pushing too hard in that phase.
Yeah, I think it's also a good way to filter men who really want you from men who just, want to have some fun or are not, or they're not willing to put an effort into the seduction to get you.
Yes, exactly. In the dating phase, you can really see also how nourished a man is from his own love. What we talked before about the inner communication and how you are able to hold yourself. You can really feel a man that is not well nourished by himself, by his own love, that he takes care of him. A man is nourished when he has a vision, when he does some sport, he takes some care of himself, has some social thing, then he's nourished. Also, how is his relationship with his body, like how does he decorate himself, how he touches himself, like in a way, like men are sometimes they are very rude with themselves, and sometimes you see men, they are like, oh, they have that self-love to their body, but this is a level of nourishment that you can taste with the time. And men who are well nourished, they won't push too hard.
Okay, cool. Let's move on. Let's talk about communication between partners right now. Let's start with, what does a woman want from a man in communication? And yeah, we were brainstorming about the points to mention, and there was this point, which is feeling free to express her own emotions. So yeah, why? I mean, it might seem a stupid question, but I think it's important. Why is it important for a woman to express her own emotions in a relationship with a man?
I think it's important for women because we women, feminine essence, stands a little bit for emotions itself, Feminine emotions is much more clearer to us when you have a feminine core as feminine and thoughts. But I don't want to say that we are thinking or something like that. But It's just a little bit a closer element where we build our inner world identity upon. How we feel about ourselves is something, how I am, I am what I feel, so to say. And I think it's explaining the inner world, like how I feel, how is the atmosphere. This is something that we want to be seen in it, we want to be heard. There's a slight warning also for women, because when we have not been heard by fathers, mothers in our childhoods, there can be a huge hunger that a partner hears us, and you start to tell everything, like I had this myself in relationships. Clients have that. Wait a second, do you want to have a sex relationship? Then you might not talk so much about work. This
Sure.
might be a topic for a friend, but not for your partner. So, what do I want? I want a sexy relationship, for example. So stay a little bit attuned as a woman too. What do you want to give as an emotional thing into the relationship? I personally, when I talk about myself, I don't like this at all. My business is my business, and I have so much shit going on sometimes. I mean, my own thinking, my emotions about my work. I don't want to put this so much in a relationship. It's too stressful, and it's an invitation for the man too. And then we are like having something that is overlaying or over our personal intimate thing, sexiness, love, attraction, like can be something also that the man says, hey, would you mind that we change the topic a little bit?
Yeah, okay. So you basically are suggesting us to stop her eventually when she steps into some kind of conversations which could be also even toxic,
Yes.
complaining too much about work or gossiping about the friend, stuff like this.
Yes, it can be valuable for women, and also to say why, that to say as a man what you like. You want a sexy relationship where it's staying a little bit in that vibe, you know what I mean? Then okay, talk also a little bit sexy topics. And I'm not saying totally excluding that. Absolutely not. I'm just saying to have an awareness around that. I think, and when you say, hey, can you talk, or can we talk another time about that? Or yeah, it's depending on the situation, but also saying why, because I really appreciate so much when we talk a little bit about how our day was. I don't know, how is the restaurant, some easy stuff, like guiding her also back into her body. I think this is maybe more valuable, also guiding her back from the head to the body. Like you could say, hey darling, how do you feel now that we're in the restaurant? You like your food? What do you think? What do you feel about the wine? Or something like that. And you're like, oh yes, oh actually I'm with my man here, oh hello, This would be valuable, because sometimes we lose it then too.
Okay, then you were talking about man showing his handsomeness to her. What do you mean by that? That made me curious, actually.
Women love the masculinity in men, but they love also a lot their gentleness, their softness. They love when they see, for example, that a man is putting some deodorant in a nice way on himself, like gentleness, the softness around himself, how he treats himself, how he is also with his friends. This is something that gives a woman a lot of trust. So it's not always like the male. This is not the reality. We want also really that men show their softness, their vulnerability. This makes us even feel safe.
Sure. But wouldn't you say that men should be vulnerable and be gentle from a position of, power, strength, control over their emotions. Don't you think that these things are important?
Yes, it is important, but again, I think sometimes we expect a lot of ourselves, and I would say maybe for the man it is the same, you know. How can I say? I think sometimes we want to be so perfectly prepared for a relationship, you know, but sometimes it's just also not everybody's the same, you know. I talk about myself, you know. I realized through my own development that I am a very philosophical woman, for example, but I wanted to be more bitchy, you know. I wanted to be like this and that. I wanted to speak louder, you know. I wanted to boom, 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 but it's just not totally my type, you know. I have a lot of softness, you know, but also I loved, for example, also when a man has a specific softness around his hands, you know, like for me, it must not be so super masculine in a way. It's a kind of taste. And I think there's much diversity in masculinity. Masculinity is not always penetrative. It's also very present. And some women can build better with that part. And some women like more the penetrative man that really pushes it forward, you know. But I think we can trust the nature there. I think when we find a little bit what is natural to us, it's perfect. There will be someone who fits. I'm 100% sure. And it doesn't mean that we are less masculine, or when men are not so penetrative, or that a woman is too feminine or too this or that. It's okay. It's okay. It's more like appreciating what's there and holding that with grace, you know. I stand to my silence. I stand to my philosophical part, and this is strong. But the philosophical part is quiet and not so loud, you know. But if I stand to it, it's powerful too. Powerful is not always loud. It's not always hey, hey, hey. Powerful can be also like elegant, a little bit quiet, like you said, a little bit mysterious. Yeah, can be powerful too.
Playing the piano can be powerful.
Yes, exactly. For example, we both play the piano. We know the magic about piano.
What's for you the difference between love and respect from the female point of view?
I think I answer it very much that sometimes I think it's sounding very blunt, but I think sometimes it happens that we can be respectless and unloving with men. It's just a fact. We can have such a state, and this is now really real talk, but I think this is happening. We cannot love another being when we are not in a love state ourselves. When I'm totally pissed, I cannot love you. It's just I cannot see you at all. And when I'm disrespecting my well-being so fucking hard, I disrespect you too. And also a lot of penetrative men have a huge ego. Sometimes even women are penetrative when the ego is very high. You know, we're like, hey, oh, give me, show me now fast as you can. Ego is penetrative. Ego is forceful. So sometimes it's very tricky, you know. And I think sometimes men ask also for respect, and they don't deserve it for that behavior. I'm not saying as a person, but for their behavior, they don't deserve respect.
I totally agree. Some men demand respect without being ready to be responsible, you know?
Yeah.
You want to be respected in a relationship. Okay, are you ready to be responsible?
Yeah.
Do you have value
Yeah.
in a woman's eyes? Because if you don't have value and if you are not ready to be responsible, fuck off. I mean,
yes, and in a way, also the same goes a little bit for women. Also, you know, we are sometimes asking of a man respect and love, that we are not giving ourselves yet to ourselves. We are not so far. And that sometimes it's hard to see as a woman where we are like in a ego superiority state, and we are like trying to ask respect from a man, but actually I'm not respecting myself in for example, when I'm super angry, you know, some women think like anger is power. Anger is not power.
Mm-hmm.
Anger looks powerful, but anger is not power. It's just it's an emotion, and it feels a lot, but it's not powerful. And some women have to understand that this is actually not true self-confidence, showing anger to a man. And in that aspect, when a woman shows a lot of anger and thinks she's powerful, I must say, darling, you are not very respecting yourself when you're angry and then show this bitch kind of thing to a man. This is very low-key.
Mm-hmm.
And then a man can say, hey, respect yourself first, please. And go with your anger first to yourself before you let it out on me.
However, I would argue this point because
Mm-hmm.
many times anger has been useful for me and for my
For
clients.
me too, yeah.
Yeah, they have used anger to, you know, start a coaching program to develop their skills in a certain area. They've started talking to girls instead of, you know, thinking about the ex all the time and crying on their pillow. So you can turn anger into something positive, into action, into energy.
Yes, I agree absolutely with you. I love anger too in that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And I used it very much for my life too. I agree on that. And I think it's needed, but I meant more like what the example that I was talking about, more like when we are in a relationship already, you know.
Okay.
But I think on the long term, anger can be a little bit questioned, or we can go deeper. What is actually the root cause? Because when I always create a misery and like, you know, like fucking hell, I will show who good I am, you know, it can be fun for a time. I did it definitely often. I built my whole business because of anger. So it was a success. But then I discovered, wow, but wouldn't it be also nice to do it just for me and my love and not out of the anger on something old? That's what I meant. But I agree, anger can be super useful.
Do you recorded any difference in your clients about what they think they are they truly like in a man as a less aware women? There is a difference,
yeah,
related to the awareness.
yes.
And what's that?
Wow, this is a very good question. I like it very much.
That's great. That's
It's a very good question.
I'm the philosophist of the group, and sometimes I become
but
too
I really
verbal.
like that. I really like that. I think
it's also an issue. But
I really like it. I really like the question. And you know what? I think, as I would respond about myself, I appreciate more the mental presence of a man or the mental psychological stability than the physiological one, as a little bit more aware, and meaning like mental support. I'm a huge thinker, for example, right? I teach that stuff. I think a lot, you know, and many of my clients come from they are teachers or they are therapists, for example. They have done a lot of psychotherapy. For them, it's also very good when a man says mentally, okay, let's switch the topic. How do you feel in this restaurant? You like it, you know, or they have very high education, you know. I don't want to say there is better or lesser about that. But also, when you are less aware, I think it's also much more physical, you know, physical help. But I think I also like, it's I also like when somebody carries my luggage sometimes, like, but I think when you are very aware mental woman, sometimes it's needed also that a man is stopping her mentally. I really enjoy that sometimes, because I can be so in the head. I really want to know, I know already so much, and sometimes it can be a little bit too much, then I really find it attractive when a man says, darling, it's okay. We have analyzed, let's go to bed. For example, like switching it off. I appreciate that a lot on a mental phase. But in the end, I think bringing her into the body, even with a kiss or a hug, I think it doesn't matter how aware you are or educated. I would say, bringing her back in the body, it's something that it's highly appreciated, because I think this is for all the women. We are so much in the head, and sometimes we forget our body, and this can be appreciated.
The ability to bring you as women back to your body is really attractive.
Yes.
I think I had an idea, but it's always interesting to have a confirmation from a woman like you.
Did you think that already? You thought that already, right?
Yeah.
For example, when she's so emotional and you think like, actually it's a little bit enough for me as a man too. And I think she had actually also talked enough, you can look at her and say, I really hear you. And then you bend to her and give her a kiss on her forehead, or caress her over her, maybe even a little bit fatherly, like slightly, like, I hear you. And would you mind that we talk another time, or let's chill? What do you think about that? And then it's like,
the protective physicality.
Yeah.
Now, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alberto. It was an amazing question. Very good.